I never thought a few words could change everything, but that night proved me completely wrong. My name is Clara, I'm 32 and I had been with Mark for almost 6 years. Married for 3. I always believed our relationship was solid, that nothing could shake what we had built together. He was calm when I was chaotic, steady when I was impulsive. I thought I understood him, that I knew him better than anyone else. The night it all fell apart, we were at his sister's engagement dinner. A small gathering, just family and close friends, or so I thought. I had spent the entire day picking the perfect outfit, styling my hair, and trying to be the fun, lively wife everyone would remember. Mark, on the other hand, was quiet as usual, adjusting his tie, barely saying more than a few polite words here and there. The evening started normally enough. Conversations drifted from wedding plans to old family stories. I was laughing, sipping my wine, feeling slightly more confident than usual. Mark was seated beside me, smiling faintly, but his eyes seemed distant. I chalked it up to nerves or perhaps the awkwardness of family politics. Then the conversation turned to relationships, as it inevitably does. One of his cousins, a little too bold, asked, "So, do you think your husband could ever, I don't know, really stand up for himself? Or for you?" I didn't think before I spoke. I laughed lightly, more out of habit than malice, and said, "Mark? Please. Half the time I feel like I could take care of him better than he takes care of me." The room erupted into nervous chuckles and polite laughter. I glanced at Mark, expecting his usual shrug or mild teasing, but what I saw froze me for a fraction of a second. He was silent, his jaw tight, eyes fixed somewhere past me, calm but unreadable. I tried to wave it off. "I'm just joking," I said, leaning into it, nudging his cousin for emphasis. "Look at him, he struggles to open jars sometimes. What's he going to do in a fight? Throw spreadsheets at someone?" I laughed, trying to keep it light. The room laughed with me. Everyone else did, but Mark didn't. Not really. He gave a tiny, almost imperceptible nod, then stayed quiet, sipping his drink. The rest of the dinner passed like a haze. I chatted, I laughed, I tried to bring Mark into the conversation, but he remained quiet, almost invisible. Something had shifted, though I refused to acknowledge it. By the time dessert arrived, I noticed the subtle distance, the stiff posture, the lack of eye contact, the silence that wasn't polite, wasn't shy, it was deliberate. Finally, when it was time to leave, I expected our usual routine. I assumed we'd leave together, him holding my coat, me teasing him on the way out. Instead, he stood, nodded at the family politely, and walked straight to the car. No words. No glance in my direction. Just the calm, unshakable motion of someone who had made up his mind. I followed him to the car, laughing lightly, trying to break the tension. "Come on, don't be mad," I said, opening the passenger door. He didn't even look at me. He started the car, checked the mirrors, and pulled out of the driveway. The drive was silent, oppressive in its intensity. Every attempt I made at small talk, at excuses, at reassurance, was met with a quiet nod or a one-word response. Finally, I couldn't take it anymore. "Mark, are you seriously still upset about what I said?" "It was a joke," I exclaimed, my voice slightly rising. He gripped the steering wheel tighter, his knuckles white, but didn't respond immediately. Then he spoke, calm even, but carrying a weight that I couldn't ignore. "It's not just the joke, Clara. It's everything. Years of me being made to feel small, years of being the punchline, all of it in front of people I care about." His voice didn't waver, but it carried a quiet finality that made my stomach sink. I didn't mean it like that," I started, fumbling, trying to salvage the moment to put it back into harmless territory. But the look in his eyes told me it was too late. It had never just been a joke for him. He continued, "I've tolerated it, I've brushed it off, I've laughed with you, I've smiled when it hurt me inside. But tonight, seeing it in front of my family, I can't do this anymore. I can't pretend it doesn't matter. I deserve better." I felt my heart racing, my mind scrambling. What do you say to that? What can you say to someone who has silently stored every slight, every jab, every little humiliation, and then chooses the quiet exit instead of the stormy confrontation? I tried to reach out, to touch his arm, to speak softly, but he simply shook his head. "No, not now. Not ever." When he stopped the car in front of our apartment, I thought maybe, just maybe, he'd relent. Maybe this was temporary. Maybe this was one of those moments where he needed space. I opened the door, but he didn't move. He simply got out, left the keys in the ignition, and walked inside without a word. No goodbye, no explanation, just the calm certainty of someone who had already decided. Sitting there in the car, watching him disappear into the apartment building, I felt a wave of disbelief. How could a few careless words, how could my habit of teasing, of making light of his strength, lead to this? I had always thought he was unshakable, that he would forgive, that he would always be there. But the truth hit me harder than I could have imagined. He had limits. And I had crossed them, perhaps without even realizing it.